folks, and welcome back to the farm. Man, it is cold as balls here this morning. If you don't have balls, well, you're gonna have to trust me, they're cold. And so winter is, we're right there. We're on the cusp. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, the weather forecast is saying we're actually gonna get snow, which is probably overdue for this part of the world, but I'm very thankful that it's held off for as long as it has. I'm also hoping that if it does snow, that it just melts right away and we get back to having some semblance of fall for a little bit longer. But given that winter's just about to come, we've got a lot of yard cleanup to do today. So the other day we actually had an auction win. We found a set of clamp-on pallet forks for the tractor bucket, and we are going to pressure test those today. Boy, oh boy. And I don't mean in the sense we're going to lift heavy stuff. We're just going to lift lots of stuff. I got to move some gates. I've got to, what else I got to move? Lots. Anyways, some poles. I got to move the hay feeder that we just built the other day. I could drag that easily enough, but hey, I got a set of pallet forks. Why wouldn't I just pick it up with them, right? Now, with the pallet forks, these were a thing that, although they were an auction win, it was kind of a mystery box. Wasn't really sure. There's a backstory to this. So last year, my wife bought. You can see kind of way over there. There's these like big crates. She bought those in an auction, thinking it was going to be the super awesome auction win, and it turned out to be like just a bunch of crates of shit that we'll never use. But I had to get the neighbor to come over and unload some of it, because we tried to unload it with the big tractor with the bale forks, and the bale forks don't fit underneath of a pallet. It turned into a total gong show. And inadvertently, when my father-in-law had positioned the tractor, when I had my back turned, I turned around and I actually run into the pallet forks with my rib, and I figure I actually cracked one, if not two ribs. And so I was a hurting unit for a couple of weeks. So no more shenanigans, no more trying to make it work, no more having to phone the neighbor. We're able to do it ourselves, and we're able to do it with one person. And well, it's a lot easier if it's one person, because then if you make a mistake, it's only your fault kind of thing. I should, before I go outside though and fool around the tractor, little brag post. Look at all these potatoes, man, oh man. We harvested all our potatoes yesterday, thinking that we're going to get all the snow here right away. So we wanted to get these out, get them in the shop floor, get them curing for a few days before we bag them up and get them into storage for the winter. So we've got some Norland Red. There's a few red Pontiacs floating around in there as well. Yukon Gold, and then Russian fingerlings, and then Peruvian purple fingerlings. These are kind of a cool potato. They're almost black, but when you cut these open, they're literally a purple potato. Very, very interesting. So I figure we're going to actually, once they're all cured up and bagged, I'm going to weigh everything. But I figure we got probably close to 400 or 500 pounds of potatoes here. So that should probably keep us for the winter anyway. So we won't starve. That's good. We've got pork. We've got potatoes. We're set. Carrots, however, we haven't harvested the carrots yet. We're just going to leave those in the ground for a few more days. We figure because the snow is just going to come and go bleh, and then probably melt right away, and then we'll have a little bit more time before we need to harvest. We'll just leave them in the ground, because that's basically nature's best storage system right there, right in the dirt where they can be. But the ones we have harvested so far have been fantastic. We've seen some that are like 2.5 inches across and 10 to 12 inches long. So very, very impressed with the carrots as well as the potatoes. Most of the turnips, believe it or not, I didn't know this, but chickens love turnips. And so every once in a while, we'll see the chickens kind of foray over there, and that's what they've been doing, is they've been pecking around the tops of the turnips. So lots of those have little beak holes in them, which is fine, because I'm not a huge fan of turnip anyways. We put it in stew and things like that, but it's not something that we would regularly dice up and just have as on the side on the plate or whatever. So if they all end up going to the chickens because they're all pecked, well, that's okay too. It's a good source of nutrients for the chickens. So this is what I'm talking about with the big pile of gates. I've actually got 5 gates and one 16-foot panel here that weighs about 200 pounds. And ordinarily, I'd have to pack these one by one across the yard like a rented mule. It wouldn't be a good time for anybody. So now I could put the whole pile right on the tractor, and away we go to where they're supposed to be. So something pretty interesting. Right here is what we call the Mouse Miracle Garden, and it's our no-dig garden bed. And earlier this year, right in the beginning of the spring, I put down mulch layers, and the first layer was a layer of cardboard, and then we did sheep's wool, and then we did cattle manure, and then we put compost on top, and we planted right into the compost. And I actually seeded some carrots in there just to see how they would grow. Well, it's interesting to see what happens when they hit the cardboard. The weed barrier works both ways. Nothing's growing through up or down. Man, I've never seen a carrot do that before, but I thought that was pretty spectacular. So it's actually been a pretty busy day. I got all the fence panels and the gates moved. I moved a round bale. I moved a bunch of fence posts. I moved the hay feeder. I even winterized the camper. And I got the old yellow Massey parked back here now. So one thing with those adjustable or removable pallet forks, I did notice I am going to have to bring the old grinder out and just doctor it up a little bit. It just doesn't quite fit over the cutting edge of that bucket because it's quite thick. I think the previous owner maybe welded a grater blade on the bottom there for the cutting edge. It's a little bit thick. So I shave a little bit of material off to get it to fit just perfect. But overall, honestly, big game changer, because I did all this manual labor today with a tractor. So in the first 5 minutes, it's got me questioning every little piece of manual labor I've ever done on the old homestead here, that if I would have had those 3-4 years ago, maybe I wouldn't be complaining about my back today. The other thing I did today is actually, it was in the garden, because we pulled all the potatoes already, and the only thing that's left in there now is carrots and dill. I went in and mercilessly stripped all the weeds out of there. So the side-by-side's down there right now with a big wagon full of weeds. And even the weeds won't go to waste. In fact, no, I'm going to back that thing right up to the pig pen and chuck all those weeds right in the pig pen. And they'll enjoy those things. And that's a great way to run all the weed seeds through a digestive system, right? Because there's only half the weed seeds that are going to even exist. And then we can compost that and just kill all the weed seeds. And you can turn weeds into compost. Like, it's amazing. Now, while I've been busy out in the yard, Carmen's been busy in here. You'll recall from a few days ago, I had mentioned we bought a new bed earlier this year. And, well, it's just been... We bought a new mattress earlier this year. Not a new bed, a new mattress. And we went with a size bigger, and so now we don't have a bed frame for it. And we're resolved to just build one of our own. And so Carmen's been, sanding like crazy and painting, staining. And so she's got this beautiful stain with like a chalk paint over top and then a layer of clear coat. These are going to form basically the box. And then those will be the slats that the actual mattress itself sits on. And so we're looking like we'll probably have maybe another 48 hours of work before we work on assembly. And then it'll be nice because we'll actually be able to get out of bed instead of trying to haul our ass up off of a mattress on the floor like we're 18 or 19 years old again. Here, pick. Here, pick. Come get some weeds. So you can see what I fed them here, scentless chamomile, or otherwise known as mayweed. It's a noxious weed. Now you could pick and burn this stuff. Then we don't really reclaim any of the nutrients that it's already robbed out of the soil. So we got two distinct animals that we'll compost with here on the farm. One's a chicken and the other one's the pigs. Now, because the pigs spend their whole life basically in the pig pen here, they don't go anywhere, we can quarantine that stuff, right? So if there's any weed seeds that come out in the excrement, we don't want them to end up anywhere they shouldn't be, we can stack and pile and compost right here. With the chickens, because the chickens are free range, they go all over the farm. So any weed seeds that maybe they would pick up and then poop out, they could be anywhere. They could be super spreaders, whereas the pigs, not the case. Well, the chores are all done, and it's been a day, let me tell you. Started off today, it was 5 degrees this morning, which is pretty cool. And I don't think it warmed up much all day. We've had a 100-mile-an-hour wind blowing all day. And in fact, it's now about 4 degrees. And you can see off to the west, we've got these snow clouds coming in. I don't think they'll actually make snow tonight, but definitely in the next day or two, we're gonna get it. That's for sure. And it just reminded me of a saying my dad always used to, like as a kid growing up, we'd have a day where the weather would just be cold and wet and miserable, and he'd go out and he'd be like, oh, it's a braw day. And for years and years, my entire childhood, I assumed that a braw day was the Cumbrian dialectual word for just a rotten, miserable day. But in fact, no, that's not the case. In fact, it actually means it's a fine day. And so I don't know if the old boy was being sarcastic, or if, that was his lot in life and it was just a great day because he was on the right side of the dirt, I guess. I don't know. But it was a braw day today, let me tell you. So on that note, I think it's time to run off and go grab a cup of tea. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.